Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum either by telephone or present.
Okay. Then I'd like to call the meeting to order, and could we call the roll?
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Commissioner Bradley.
Present.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Peoples.
Present.
Commissioner Reese.
Present.
Commissioner Boaz.
Present.
Commissioner Strother.
Present.
And Chair Vizintainer.
Present.
You have 8 present and a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Before we turn it over to Don to give us a few comments to seek approval of the minutes, there has been a slight modification to them. It went out by email a little while ago, I believe. Basically, the change that was made over what was distributed earlier, it modified the very last paragraph, which had indicated that Commissioner Strother had seconded the motion. In fact, he was not in attendance, so that has been deleted. And so, if there are no other, are there any other suggested corrections or changes? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Second.
Then moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as the revised version sent out. Any other comments on that? Call the roll, please.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples.
Aye.
Commissioner Reese.
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz.
Aye.
Commissioner Strother.
Abstain.
And Chair Vizintainer.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all but one present voting yes.
Don, do you have any comments?
So, yes, Mr. Chairman, you've looked at me and you've asked me to make comments, and Jeffrey has now looked at me and said, oh, God, he didn't ask Don to make comments, so Don will talk the rest of the night. But let me just say a couple of things. We have a very short agenda tonight. Now, having done the minutes, there are only 2 action items, both zoning items. The other items are informational only, meaning this can be a rather expedient meeting. You've had the PowerPoint emailed to you. Emily will do a pretty fast move of the PowerPoint tonight because there are 2 items. They're both zoning items. They're adjacent to each other. One is a response to a developer that's actually doing something, and the others are immediately adjacent. It's entirely a residential geography, but the current zoning is J industrial, so it's one of those long overdue types of things. So with that in mind, and people listening and people viewing, I think we probably can be rather expedient in going through it, and then certainly if we've gotten too expedient, ask questions. So.
Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, go. Okay. So this is the petition for rezoning of the zoning map. It's for 2801 and 2803 Magnolia, 2 parcels on the northwestern corner of California Avenue and Magnolia Avenue. It's in the Fox Park neighborhood. They total 0.2 acres. This site, and I'll show you a slide on this later, was a part of the Chapter 99 redevelopment plan. It's a Tower Grove East, Fox Park, Chapter 99 redevelopment plan scattered site. The developer is Chris Sherman and Eric Lindbeck with East Fox Homes. So they're going to put the building, which occupies those parcels, is currently vacant. They would convert it into a white box commercial unit on the first floor, along with an ADA accessible apartment unit on the first floor, and then 4 apartments on both second and third floors. Currently, the parcels are zoned J, as are the first 4 parcels on that end of the block, and you can see across the street there's some J zoning, and there is an actual industrial use across the street But other than that corner, primarily this area is really concentrated. So here's an aerial photo. Well, you can see with the red dot. Aerial photo of the site on the corner there. Here is a picture of 2801, 2803 Magnolia.
This is a historic district,
Yes.
and this building that we see on the image with the windows out and construction equipment around it is being renovated and put to those uses you described, right?
Yes.
Good.
This is the building itself. This is the block front it sits on, so the building's on the corner there. And here's the residential. Okay. Here's the sanitary dairy company. That's the industrial use that I pointed out across the site. And then on the southeast corner of the intersection, there's this vacant mixed-use building and some commercial and residential. And Gravois is just on the other side of that.
Boy.
Gravois? How do I Gravois? Gravois. I can very St. Louis.
I know, you're fancy, you're not.
I know, I say French, but it's French. It would be Gravois.
I know.
Yeah, which is how I first started saying it.
So the rents just went up 15%, right?
Okay, so here's across the street, residential properties there, and you see that commercial building on the corner there. This is at the other end of that little block right across the street. There's a mixed-use building that's currently being renovated for residential purposes. And then you can see the block front extends west all the way to Jefferson with multifamily residential. This is a map of the redevelopment area that the parcel was a part of, for Chapter 99. You can see the scattered sites around the neighborhood there. Our parcel is this one. Parcel in question. And then here's the strategic land use plan. It's designated as neighborhood preservation, which allows for some neighborhood commercial in order to provide services to the neighborhood themselves and residential. So what we're suggesting and what the zoning administrator suggested is that if we were to rezone this, if you were to rezone the subject parcel, because it's vacant and underutilized, it would bring, this is going to bring new housing and commercial opportunities in the area. More than 40% of the block face is, actually it's about 71% of the block front is residential. So it brings it into conformity with the residential uses around it and its intended future use. And so, because of that, the zoning administrator and CDA staff recommend in compliance with the strategic land use plan that it be approved.
And in this case being the petition from the owners.
This is, yes.
Can you go back, I'm sorry, to the plan that right there?
Yeah. So that's the city's comprehensive plan land use component, with the yellow being our category of neighborhood preservation, one of the 10 categories we have.
And so, Don, so neighborhood development area means, what's the difference between that and the yellow?
The good point is remember our strategic land use plan is really at the parcel level or the block face level. So when an entire block is designated as yellow, it means it's a neighborhood area. There's probably some infill opportunities or some stabilization opportunities. If that block is labeled neighborhood development, it generally would mean that half of that block has vacant buildings on it.
Okay, all right. I was thinking about my map and my neighborhood.
Right, so you have a lot that shows the neighborhood development because of the vacancy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Eric Lindbeck was intending to be here to represent the development and answer questions. In fact, he just got something in our door. I haven't gotten the email from him. Who's on the phone?
Making a checklist of things for the planning commission, so we'll add and make sure the front door's unlocked.
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the zoning amendment. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Could you call the roll, please?
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz.
Aye.
Commissioner Strouser.
Aye.
And Chair Vizentainer.
Aye.
Motion passes with all present voting yes. I missed the, it's okay to call into this meeting.
Yeah, you didn't
You didn't answer your phone.
Counting on it.
But we like that you should, Will.
Yeah, we do.
And Tracy was here.
I'm excited to hear.
And Jeffrey had this great conversation that he thought we were going to have dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that the people who have to call in would miss out. She told you that.
Moving on. So the next slide of this will show it all in a way, I think.
Okay.
But it goes on the lens.
So this is the rezoning by initiation. When we got communication from Alderwoman Christine Ingracia about these parcels, she was concerned about the potential problematic uses of J Industrial District on the two parcels that were being petitioned. And that stimulated a conversation about, well, why would we need J rezoning on these two interior parcels if we're rezoning for, different uses? These two ends. So anyway, these are two parcels just adjacent to the rezoning site which is approved. One of them is, I believe, owner-occupied two-family unit, and one is a vacant four-family unit being redeveloped by Wellman of Athens. What else did it say? Okay, so there's a distinction here in that the rezoning for the parcels at 2801 and 03 went to F in order to accommodate that white box commercial unit. This would go to because those are exclusively residential uses.
So I think, having understood, you just rezone, or approve the rezoning that are next to California. Logically, one on the corner is going to have a commercial use in it. Those two adjacent to it are not mid-block, but further into the block. They're currently Zone J, the residential buildings, and we're asking you to initiate that they be downzoned from J, which is, remember, it's the second most liberal zoning in the city. It's an industrial zoning, to this being C.
Right.
That's 3 parcels, right?
2.
I'm sorry, include the entire industrial corner there. 3 parcels.
4 total.
Okay.
2 by petition and 2, the black line for the last slide was the 2 on the corner, and now the initiation of those 2 in the more middle.
Technically, you're right, because those 2 parcels have been consolidated, they just haven't registered.
Okay. The black
The
line,
1 and 03 were consolidated.
the black line looks like it cut something in half, or those are just 2.
It's just obliterating the property line that's under it.
Got it. Yeah.
And 2809 is an odd parcel shape.
Okay.
Okay, so current zoning, same aerial photo right next door, very similar photos. Here's the 2 buildings in question. The one on the right is the one I think is owner-occupied. Again, the residential context really makes sense to go see. And then same strategic land use plan, it is in conformity as a neighborhood preservation area to make a residential building. So, we recommend a yes on this one too.
Any questions?
Can you go back to the slide that showed 2809?
Yes. This one?
That one.
Okay.
And then you have another, you kind of like the whole block. That is an odd, oh, no, I'm looking past it. That's the church people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
One fancy house.
Yeah. But still, it's kind of, when you look at the rest of the architectural landscape, it's still that, what do you call that dome-looking thing? Huh?
The turret?
Turret, is that what you call it? Anyway, there are no other buildings on that block that has that, is it? Is it? This is Fox Park, though. They have fun with this in Lafayette Square, I'm sure. This is not a historic district.
It is.
It is. Okay. All righty. Sorry you guys can't understand what I'm talking about, those who are on the phone.
They had pictures. They all have their package in front of them.
They're all,
Let's just suffice it that the buildings on this block have a great deal of architectural character.
Are there any other questions?
Rule.
Second.
Previous rule.
Then moved and seconded, and previous rule requested. Any discussion? Any objection to previous rule? Hearing none, please pass. John, anything on targeted items or no closed session items either?
Now, there's no closed session items, but there's one item put under informational matters that I asked staff present and others just to be considerate that we'll not have further discussions about this topic until sometime during the day tomorrow. But I made reference that Emily is from Kansas City, and Emily has been enticed by a very attractive position in Kansas City, doing things that she had initiated in Kansas City that hadn't gelled. And we'll say there's a sleep-on component to this, but I will dare say that this would be Emily's last time.
You just got here.
I know.
So with that, and there's an easy reference to say that she's just got here. She has. But you know, we've embraced her fully. She's embraced us fully. It's been a joy. And that's her middle name is Joy. We do come close in this agency, so we're going to reward our colleague for having such success to be able to do something that she helped create in Kansas City at this point in her career. And why don't you describe what it is?
so 3 years ago, I led a feasibility study to determine the gaps in Kansas City's regional food system in terms of supply and demand for healthy access to food. And we learned that there's $125 million in unmet wholesale demand in the region annually, and a severe lack of supply in order to meet that demand. And so this was a Food Hub feasibility study to determine what the right intervention would be in order to increase supply and get it into institutions, get local food into institutions like hospitals. And so what emerged from that year's study was Food Hub, that's now a producer-driven business cooperatively owned by 12 producers, and building themselves towards being a resource organization for farmers in this region around Kansas City, which includes St. Louis. This organization is a network of what they call sub-hub facilities. Essentially, it's infrastructure for farmers to be able to cool their produce, get it to buyers so that the shelf life stays good. The advantage of shipping produce from Mexico is that the way industrial ag and distribution works is that it's frozen right away, cooled right away, the ability to are. For a farmer in Missouri, without to have cold storage, it's really difficult to keep that shelf life of the produce fresh. So this provides infrastructure for them so that we can build regional production and get local food into So the network of sub-hubs, the network of that sort of storage and distribution infrastructure that this hub is working with, and they're building partnerships with those food hubs. And so my hope is that the North City Food Hub might be a potential future part of that network. So for me, this is not an exit St. Louis, but a more regional scope in food systems planning, which is my love and has been for a long time. And so it's really exciting for me to be able to go direct something that I created. Not alone, it was with a bunch of people, but it's also not without regret. That and the work with you all has been incredibly meaningful, and it's taught me so much. And I'm just really grateful for that. And definitely,
So by that description, you damn well know they made a great choice. And by watching her cook with great professionalism, knowledge, and perception, something as tedious but as vital in a city of making sure that it's not industrial zoning in the heart of a residential neighborhood, you know we'll miss her too. I promised her I'd be doing the hard work.
Congratulations, and I know you quite well.
Yeah, and you have to come back and visit and nice to know.
Yeah.
And actually,
I think this is going to lead towards regional agricultural planning, by the way, like
so
5 to 7 years from
In
now.
our region, by the way, we're not even sure how to deal with St. Louis County you're talking about.
But the mayor from Kansas City here to speak at her inauguration, so.
Yeah.
So actually, part of her last 3 days of employment by the city is going to be helping to do some pollinating, some interaction between St. Louis and Kansas City. So.
And I'm on board for fostering that collaboration in every way I can.
And I teased her a little bit that she's from Kansas City, and you moved here
2 years.
2 years ago. So the parent network is very much back in Kansas City.
Although I have one here now, but I'll miss dearly.
And one of 28, I think? No.
28 members, support members.
Anyway.
I there's 28 of them.
All right. So we're having that transition, and we'll see you in June.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.